Welcome to the weekly Top 5, your quick hit draft guide powered by real data from 17 lands. Today's August 12th, and we're going to be looking at the top performing commons in Edge of Eternities with a little more color than we did the previous week. Data has leveled out fairly well, so if you're looking for more individual data, go to the previous episode. Let's get into it. Starting off with white, we're going to look at the top 5 commons, and Banishing Light is still number 1. Banishing Light is, of course, 2 and a white for an enchantment that on ETB exiles target non-land permanent until this leaves. Excellent removal in white. Number 2, we have Night Luminary. Night Luminary does multiple things here. It creates 2 bodies for an efficient cost. You can warp it, so it triggers warp on decks that care about that. The multiple bodies plus the efficient cost and warp has it at white's number 2 common. Then at number 3 we have Focus Fire. Focus Fire is 1 white for an instant, and it's going to deal 2 plus X, where X is the number of creatures and or spacecraft you control. This is just extremely efficient removal. The downside, of course, is if you don't have this criteria, the max it's doing is 2. It's hyper efficient. So I'm happy to put this in any of my white-based creature decks. Next we have Radiant Strike. This is one I was originally wrong about. Normally we see these destroyed target creature effects for a little cheaper. This is 3 and a white for an instant that destroys target artifact or tapped creature. You gain 3 life. Turns out this is still removal, and removal is good, especially when you need to kill something that is beating you down or a pesky artifact on the other side of things. Number 5 is still Auxiliary Boosters. This is a 5 mana artifact equipment that on ETB makes a 2/2, and the equipment also gives your creature +1/+2 and flying. We've seen before where artifact equipment that is left behind tends to be valuable. Even though this is slightly understated, the fact that this leaves behind the equipment, you can put on your creature and now you have another evasive threat in the air. So it makes sense that this comes in at number 5 for white. Moving on to blue's top commons, and the secret is out on Cryogen Relic as the number 1 common. This just does so much work for 2 mana, and it fits into a lot of decks. Artifact synergies, leaving the battlefield, being able to sacrifice something on command, and it's incredibly efficient at 1 in a blue. So 1 in a blue, ETB, draw a card, and 1 in a blue for an activated ability to sacrifice this, and you can put a stun counter on up to 1 target tapped creature. Note this is up to, so it doesn't have to be tapped. Just incredibly efficient. I want it several copies in any of my blue decks. Number 2 is Divert Disaster. This is 1 in a blue for a counter spell unless they pay 2. This acts as a pseudo 2-drop, and in the fail case where they do have mana available, you can get a lander token out of it, so it's not entirely useless in that scenario either. And number 3, what goes perfectly with Cryogen Relic number 1 is the Self-Craft Mechan. This is 3 in a blue for an artifact creature, Robot Artificer, and it is a 3/4. On ETB, you can sacrifice an artifact, and when you do, you put a counter on target creature and draw a card. So this is at home right next to Cryogen Relic. Number 4 is your typical bounce and goes to either the top or into your opponent's library at the bottom. With this card, you can actually respond to the sacrifice ability of a lander token, and you can make that permanent go away forever. So the way this would work is responding to your opponent's sacrifice of a lander token, you then cast Lost in Space, and that card will then get shuffled into their library. So it's 4 in a blue for an instant, and again, it goes to top or bottom. Surveil 1. Cryo Shatter is 1 blue. It's an enchantment aura. Enchant creature gets -5/-0, and when it is tapped or dealt damage, destroy it. This is incredibly efficient removal. At 1 mana for blue, it's not a true destroy or remove this creature, but it effectively is. Alright, and for black, we have our first rank change at number 3, but let's start at number 1 with Virus Beetle. Virus Beetle is 1 in a black artifact creature, and on ETB, each opponent discards a card. This is the perfect fodder for your other Black X decks and is a built-in 2-for-1. Not the best top deck, certainly, but nonetheless, for what you pay for, and what you get, it is incredibly efficient. At number 2, we have Graph Pack Monoist, 2 in a black, 2/1 flyer that upon death creates a 2/2 colorless robot artifact creature. This is just efficient for the stats that you get and what you pay. You get a flyer out of the deal, and when this thing dies, you're going to get another creature that's left behind. So your opponent really doesn't want to stick a removal spell at it, nor do they want to just trade with this. So an annoying threat that can eventually close out games. And we have our first rank change here at number 3. This card keeps going up and up in my pick order. It's Perigi Beckoner. 4 in a black, ETB, target creature gets +2/+0, and when it dies, return to the battlefield tapped. It also has Warp for 1 and a 2, or 1 in a black, excuse me. This card helps push damage. It can make blocks unreasonable. It's a huge body for a 5 mana 4/5. It has Warp, so sometimes you can trigger other Warp related things. I finally had the opportunity to warp this onto my creature that had been cryo shattered. So I attacked with it and then it destroyed itself and came back. So that's a nice little combo if your opponent is running blue. Just a very flexible card, and the modality, the flexibility of it lets you do a lot with it. So this has gone up to number 3. Then at number 4, we have Depressurize. Just an efficient removal spell, 1 in a black at an instant. Target creature gets -3/-0, and then it destroys it if it's 0 or less. An efficient removal spell, all of your black decks wouldn't mind having 1 or maybe even 2 of these. And then finally, at number 5, we have Gravkill. This is black's bread and butter removal spell, 3 in a black for an instant that exiles target creature or spacecraft. It's not as good in this format as previous formats. We had in Final Fantasy one that was similar to this that also gained you life, and it just felt better casting that as opposed to in this set. But nonetheless, it gets the job done, and you're happy to have this in your black decks. Moving on to red, at number 1, we have Orbital Plunge. Orbital Plunge is 3 in a red for a sorcery that will deal 6 to target creature. And then if excess damage was dealt to it, so essentially 5 or less toughness, you create a lander token. That lander token really pushes this over the edge. 6 damage is going to deal with almost everything in the format, and you now leave behind a piece of cardboard for yourself. And that cardboard is extremely relevant. It makes splashing easier. It's significant. So that's at number 1. Number 2, Nebula Dragon. Just a great card at stabilizing you if you're behind. It adds a body to the board and potentially takes something out. Nebula Dragon is a 6 in a red for a creature dragon, flying 4/4. And upon ETB, it deals 3 damage to any target. I had a game where I was able to cast one of these and then flicker it twice for the win. So I did 9 damage in one turn. And keep in mind that this is extremely splashable with that single red pip. So if you need a top end card to finish out your deck, this fits in nicely. At number 3, it's Cav Landseeker. 3 in a red for a 4/3 body with menace, and on ETB it makes a lander that you can sack as long as you do it before the end of your following turn. Good stats for a good body, and gives you a piece of cardboard that is left behind, as we talked about with Orbital Plunge. Don't be afraid to not sacrifice the token. If you play this on 4 and then you move into turn 5 and the situation demands that you don't sack that token, don't. You don't have to go for max value there. At number 4, we have Zookeeper Mechan. It's a 2-mana artifact creature that adds mana. Additionally, that activated ability of making your other creatures bigger for 7 is not irrelevant. That will come up late game where all of a sudden you're having to spend a piece of removal spell on their 2-drop, otherwise they will turn their entire board into relevant threats. So, Zookeeper Mechan number 4. Finally, at number 5, Meddled Moxite, 1 in a red. This just helps smooth out your draws, makes hands that are a little sketchier that you can keep and later turn into a creature for you. It's an artifact that on ATB you can discard a card and draw 2. You can also sacrifice it for 3 to get a 2/2 later on. So this is what I would call on-demand void. Triggers your void for you instead of sitting there waiting for something to happen. The option of you having control over that is what I think makes this card as valuable as it is. And finally, moving into green, a little bit of a change here, nothing too significant. Galactic Wayfarer is still at number 1, just an incredible card. 3 mana for 3/3, so great stats that leaves a lander on ETB. Just take this card. If you're not taking it and playing with it, try it a little bit and you'll see why it's ranked as high as it is. The card that has made another rank change is Gene Pollinator. Gene Pollinator, of course, a green for a 1/2 artifact creature, and you can tap it and then tap another permanent, untapped permanent, to add 1 mana of any color. This just does so much work for 1 mana. It also synergizes with anything that wants to be tapped, so there's a lot of that in this format, things that care about being tapped. And there's a lot of permanents that are floating around, like a Cryo Shatter or a Moxite, that make this very easy to ramp you should you need to. Gene Pollinator at number 2. At number 3, we have Biosynthetic Burst, an efficient combat trick. There is a lot of keywords on this combat trick. So for 1 in green, you get an instant that puts a counter on something. It also gives it reach, trample, indestructible, and you can untap it. Nah, not you can, you have to untap it. So you can use it as an ambush effect as well if you want to. If someone is making a suspicious attack and they've green open, 2 mana open and green, I'm always thinking about this card. At number 4, Diplomatic Relations. Not too much to say here other than it's green's removal spell, 2 and a green, for an instant that gives creature you control +1/+0 vigilance until end of turn, and it deals damage to another creature. The only thing with this I'd say is watch out for blowouts. You generally don't want to be casting this into open mana. And finally, at number 5, we have Ice Cave Crasher. 3 and a green for a 4/4 beast that has trample. It also has landfall that will get +1/+0 until end of turn when a land enters. With lander tokens, you can use this as pseudo combat tricks or just threaten effective damage. And for 4 mana, 4/4 stats, that is perfect, and that's exactly what we're looking for in this format. Okay, that's going to wrap up the week for August 12th, Edge of Eternities. If the numbers shift, you'll hear it here. Subscribe and stay sharp. See you next week, and let me know in the comments if there's anything else that you'd like to see. Open to feedback. Thanks, y'all. Bye-bye.